I'm Maury Flanagan, and I'd like to show you some tricks that I've been using for years to teach people how to really enjoy themselves in skiing. I think it'll be a lot of fun. Not final forms, but they sure emphasize the way to change your weight and really have a lot of fun learning to ski, and the most easy way I know how to get across the points to you all. So come on, let's go. Now that you have your skis all on, the next thing we ought to learn is how to put the poles on. And you put your wrist right up through the poles. Let them hang from your wrist. Grab the strap and the pole right down through your thumb and forefinger so that you get a firm grip on the poles. Now we'll walk across the flat. And as you walk across the flat, you want to think of it as dragging your feet across the kitchen floor. And each time you take a step, bend your knees a little bit. Keep the poles slightly behind you so you can push with them. You take nice, long, easy, slow, sliding steps. Next thing we'll learn is how to turn on the flat, on the tips, and on the tails. You want to keep the tip of your skis together, and you step the heels around them. You want to think of the skis now as hands on a clock, is the way I like to think of it, when we go to turning on the flat. Keep the tip of the skis together. That'll be the center of the clock. You just change the time of the day. Move one foot, put the other foot right beside it. Move one foot, the other foot right beside it. Just the opposite. We can pivot on the tails of the skis. Keep the tail of the skis together. Step one toe or the shovel to bring the other foot right beside it. Don't pick the skis up or they're going to cross on you. Keep the skis or the tails of the skis on the snow. Take little steps and bring them around. Make V's in the snow, just like you're making the letter V. And just step around. And this is something you can practice on the front lawn at home. Good way to get used to your skis. Doing this, you don't want to pick the skis up or they're going to cross on you. So you keep your skis on the snow, the heels, and you just pivot around on either the tips or the tails. And this is the easiest way to turn on the flat. And we'll use this up on the slope in combination with our edges. Okay, now we've learned to turn on the tips, and we've learned to turn on the tails. We want to learn how to get up this hill. We call it sidestepping, and I like to think of sidestepping as climbing a flight of stairs sideways. You use this uphill edge here, this uphill edge there. Change your weight to this foot, bring this foot up beside it, and rock from foot to foot, and push with your downhill pole as you're climbing. It's best to kind of look at the scenery. Don't watch your skis. It's a lot easier if you start the habit right now of not watching your skis. Climb right straight up the hill. Okay, now that we're up here, we'll learn about falling. The only time you ever get hurt on a pair of skis is when you fall. So you don't want to fall wrong. The right way to fall is to fall back and land on your padded end, your hip. And I usually call them either a left or a right cheek Christie. You never want to fall forward and dig that knee into the snow. This is how most people get hurt. So you want to just fall back and slide into second base. The right way and the wrong way to fall. If you fall forward, dig that knee into the snow like this, you're going to either wreck your knee or you're going to break your ankle here, or sprain something, and it's going to hurt. The idea to fall and keep those knees up at all times. On getting up, you want to get your feet tucked right up under you here. Get your skis across the hill. Take the downhill pole, which happens to be my right, your left, cross it right in here and stick it in right next to your uphill hip. Take your uphill hand, put it on the pole backwards or face forward with the wrist. Keep the pole at a flat angle. Don't have it like this. Keep it flat. Okay, now push with this hand, lift with this one, get your rear end in the air, move your foot, and slide your hand up the pole. Now we're up and ready to start down the hill. We have our poles in both hands ready to go. Take the poles and you plant them down the hill parallel to your downhill ski. Palm of the hands go on top of the pole. You want to make sure that your pole and arm and elbow and everything's in a straight line. Okay, while in this position, you step your uphill ski, bring the downhill ski up beside it. Step the toes around just like we learned down there on the flat. Okay, holding yourself back with your feet more or less up the hill a little ways. Bend your knees a little bit. Now, we want to keep our feet a little bit apart. All you have to do now is pick up the poles, let them slide into your palms, drag behind you, and just go down the hill with a lot of up and down. Okay, now we've made several downhill runs with our feet together, we ought to learn the snowplow position. So you get your poles out in front here like this. The easiest way to do it is just with a little hop, jump the tail end of the skis out. Now the idea of the snowplow, the tip of the ski should be about as far apart as that round thing on the bottom of your pole. The back end of your skis ought to be about as far apart as that ski pole is long. The wider it is, the harder we bend our knees, the slower you're going to go. Now I like to think of this as riding horseback, sitting in a saddle with the stirrups way out. Now, you don't want to put your knees together like this, because if you do, you set your skis too much on the edges and they'll cross. Plus, looks like you have to go in a hurry. You don't want to do this cowboy style either. You don't want to bow the knees out, because you're apt to go down the hill and end up with a split personality, and that's not advisable either. So you want to come around, sitting in the saddle, stirrups wide out, knees pressing right towards the tip of the skis here. And the hands positioned just about right here where it feels real comfortable. Okay, we'll go up the hill and give it a try. Okay, now we're going to make our very first run down the hill in the snowplow. And to get started, remember, you plant the poles parallel to the downhill ski, palm of the hands on top of the poles. Turn on the tips, and then turn on the heels, and come in between your two poles, nice and wide. The wider they are and the harder you bend your knees, now the slower you're going to go. Just drop the hips here. Get the poles out of the way. If you notice, I'm on this inside edge here. I'm on that inside edge there. Come forward slightly with my hips, standing still. Stand nice and relaxed. Hands about right here. Let yourself glide down the hill. Don't bend way over, and don't put the knees together. Sit and push. Okay, now the next thing we're going to learn is how to open and close. Remember, the snowplow is also for slowing down. It's a brake. Start off in a little snowplow about here. Start sliding. You're going to kind of rise up and forward. They come together. Sink down and push out. Slow yourself down again. Rise up and sink down and push out. Usually at this stage of the game, when we start talking about putting our skis in the snowplow position, people start to panic a little bit. And usually when they panic, they rise up and they rear back, and they'll probably fall down, or they'll get going way too fast. The idea is you want to stay down on these things. And the trick I've tried, and it works real well, you can try this yourselves, is that you hold on to the knees. And if you're weak-legged, if you don't have real strong legs, this also helps to brace your legs, and it makes it a heck of a lot easier to hang on to the snowplow as you're going down the hill. You can go nice and slow. It also puts you almost into a perfect snowplow position by being right here. Okay, now we know how to do this nice, straight, slow snowplow, and the next important thing you ought to know how to do is turn. And the turn is very simple, except it's just the opposite of any other sport you've ever tried. And what we do, we lean out away from the turn. The way I like to think of it, you lean on this ski because it's pointing in that direction, I'll go that way. If I lean on this ski, it's pointing in that direction, I'll go that way. And it's called angulating. What you do is bring your rib cage here down against your hip bone. I'm leaning on this ski, this side of my body is heavy, I'll go in that direction. Up to the center, if I rock over onto this ski, then I'll go in that direction. The thing you want to remember is don't shift the hips, because if you do, your skis are going to cross on you. You want to keep your hips dead center of the skis, right here. And all we have to do is drop the shoulders slightly over, slightly back, so I can push the back end of the ski. I like to think of the skis as a boat. You turn the rudder of the ski, just like you turn the rudder on a boat. As I go around that corner, I'm going to push the heel and look at my next turn. So we'll go on up the hill now, everybody, and we'll try this one. This is really a lot of fun. So now remember in the snowplow turn that we lean on the ski that's pointing in the direction you want to go. If I lean on this ski, I'll go that way. If I lean on that ski, I'll go in that direction. It's called angulating. And you bring your rib cage here down against your hip bone. Come to the center and rock over. Start moving. We push on the heel of the ski and lean on it. And around you go. Come to the center of the skis, rise up, push on this heel, and lean down the hill and around we'll go. Come up, come to the center, let them run a little bit. Sit in the saddle, feet wide apart, rock over, stay on the, pushing this heel, just allow yourself to run. Nothing on this changing weight. You do it a lot with, I like to use my head and shoulders. And you remember, you drop the shoulder down and over, but as you do it, you want to tilt the head too. And I like to think of this as dumping water out of the ear, because a lot of people, when they drop the shoulder like this, they'll keep the head here. Well, that doesn't look so hot. So you want to come right in here, drop the shoulder and the head over as if you're pouring water right out of this ear. So that gives you a lot more weight change, a lot more weight that's changed, the faster you come around the corner. Okay, now let's go on up and try it and see if it really works. One thing you should never do is get on that toe and go up on that mountain without knowing how to turn or go slowly. And what we do in our school, we set up our poles. And we try to go nice and slow. And the idea being, when you get opposite the pole, you lean away from it. This also helps you to shift your weight and to see if you can make a nice, slow, controlled turn. You're sitting in the saddle, nice and wide. Here's the first pole. Lean away from it. Right here, I'm leaning down the hill. Come to the center. Let them run a little bit. That's the bottom pole, lean down the hill, lean away from the pole. You notice I'm still leaning on the downhill ski. Okay, we know how to snowplow turn now, and we ought to learn something about the traverse position so we can get into stem turning. It's a lot easier than snowplowing all day long. You ought to learn how to stem turn. And of course, the stem turn is when you go across the hill with your feet together. So we ought to learn the traverse position. And this is how it's done. Now I'd like to show you the traverse position. While you're moving across the hill, we call that traversing. The traverse position is exactly like the snowplow position, the only difference being that you have your feet together. And in the snowplow position, we're leaning down the hill, shoulders parallel to the slope you're on. You want to see what angulation looks like? Show this angulation a little better. If you notice, I can bring my rib cage here right down against my hip bone. You see how my body is angled in and angled out, so I'm right on that downhill ski. So all I have to do now, if I can go across the hill in this position, I ought to be able to go across the hill with my feet together. It's right here. And I like to think of this as going across the hill sitting on a bar stool. So keep your hips always up the hill. Gals usually like to ski with their hips here. I don't know how they can do it, but they do it. So you always want to keep your hips right there. Angle over the skis. Here it is here. Here it is there. We also keep the knees bent. This is a natural traversing position to keep the weight on the downhill ski. You stay in this position while moving across the hill. Get to here. Stem out in both feet. Go to the fall line. Rock over. Look at your next turn. Rise up and let the uphill ski come in ahead. I like to think of the stem turn as a snowplow turn. The only difference being you have your feet together while you're going across the hill. So we start across the hill, and you want to remember that the mountain ski, which happens to be my right foot, is always ahead of the valley ski, and that's the valley down there. So you start across the hill, always face the next turn. While looking at the next turn, I come across the hill, go out into a snowplow, the skis go to the fall line or straight down the hill. You rock over and you stay in the turn until you slow down. Now all you have to do is rise up, face the next turn, and let the uphill ski come in ahead. Slow down, rock over, rise up, and let your skis come together. Uphill skis ahead, face the next turn. Slow down. Right here, you want to hold the poles across the hill or across the fall line. This is just an exercise to help you face the next turn. Snowplow out, see the poles right in this position. Then they come around and you'll lean over, and again, now I'm facing the next turn, poles down below me. I push out, rock over, change the poles, and they come over onto the other downhill side, and again we face the next turn. Push out. Another little exercise we like to use, it's a lot of fun. You take your poles off your wrist, and you point your poles more or less down the hill. This keeps your back always to the hill in a traverse. And Come across the hill, keep the poles pointing down the hill while you snowplow. Rock over, still the poles point down the hill. You rise up, bring your feet together, pointing the poles down the hill. Rise, rock over. Now rise up, point the ski poles down the hill, and let your feet flow together. Another one of the little gimmicks I like to use that makes it more vivid on how you hold your hands while skiing is pretend like you're carrying an imaginary tray. I call it the martini tray. And you hold it in both hands and you keep it on the downhill side of your body. Okay, while traversing across the hill, you hold the martini tray right here. We go into our snowplow, bring the tray over to the downhill side, lean over, and keep the tray right there as you rise up for your next turn. Push out, move the tray over to the downhill side. You start across the hill, always face the next turn. Without looking at the next turn, I come across the hill, go out into a snowplow, the skis go to the fall line or straight down the hill. You rock over and you stay in the turn until you slow down. Now all you have to do is rise up, face the next turn, and let the uphill ski come in ahead. Slow down, rock over, rise up, and let your skis come together. Uphill skis ahead, face the next turn. Slow down, rock over. Okay, everybody, I hope you've enjoyed these first lessons we've given you. We've got you up to the point now you can handle the green square trails. We're up through stem turns. You're up here, you can enjoy the view, and it's a lot of fun from here on out, and I'll see you in our next film.